Scared for Reals.
Hey, it's Chris O'Neill.
And Adam Perry.
All right, before we get started, subscribe on our YouTube channel. So whenever you log into your account or open your app, when we have a new episode, you will get notified. We're also on Facebook, Instagram, X. Our handle is at Scared for Reals. All right, probably one of the more highly anticipated horror movies. We've known about it for months. Terrifier 3, actually, since last year, wasn't it? Late last year, we knew we were getting a third Terrifier movie.
Yep. My favorite serial killer clown.
He is your favorite, yeah.
Mr. Art the Clown.
Right. So, again, we're going to be talking about the entire Terrifier 3 film from start to finish. So, spoiler alert. If you haven't seen it yet, you may want to go out there. And you know what I noticed, Adam, is like we live in the capital region of New York, okay?
Yeah.
And I remember the second Terrifier had such an amazing theatrical run because it was literally like fan-funded. You know what I mean? The better the movie did that weekend meant it was going to be in more theaters the next.
Yeah.
And it just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And in Hometown USA, that's what Glens Falls is labeled as here. In Glens Falls, we were lucky enough to get Terrifier 3 without having to wait like 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
It's got to be like, even though I'm not as big a fan of these films as you are, it is so cool to see an independent film literally go from rags to riches, like the Tony Bennett song there.
Right.
So let's talk about the origin. Before we get too deep into the Terrifier 3 lore and all that kind of stuff, you've kind of followed Art the Clown, Damian Leone from the start, because it dates all the way back to 2008 with some shorts, right?
Yes. Yeah, and I mean, this is a character that really got me into podcasting, Chris.
Your old podcast was Scarifier.
Yeah, which is a play off the
Terrifier.
Terrifier, because me and my brother loved the original Terrifier so much, like we had to talk about it. My introduction to it was silly enough. I was listening to Chris Jericho's podcast, and he had just seen Terrifier, the original Terrifier, and he was putting it over like crazy. So I checked it out,
and he happens to be in some of the Terrifier.
Well, he was in the second and third one.
I know, that's what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, like he's a champion for this movie, and he's become friends with Damian Leone, and so yeah, I saw the movie, and I texted my brother. I was like, "You have to check this out." Like I hadn't seen a horror movie like that in years. The original Terrifier, and he got just as excited, and then we started a little podcast about it, and now here I am with you,
right?
And so this the original movie really has a huge place in my horror heart,
right? So you're talking about the first set of, because Art the Clown goes back to 2008.
Yeah, Art the Clown, his first official appearance was in 2008 in a movie by Damian Leone called All Hallows Eve, and it was an anthology movie.
Right.
And Art the Clown kind of plays both, he has his own chapter, but he also kind of plays like the link between all the chapters, kind of like Karloff did in Black Sabbath.
Well, the interesting thing I read about it is it wasn't meant to be an anthology film. He had shot like several shorts with Art the Clown, and they kind of put them into one anthology movie.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
Art the Clown was played by a different actor than who's played him in the last 3 movies. Right. I can't remember the guy's name off the top of my head, but when they did the Terrifier movie, they gave the character actor David Howard Thornton to play Art. I've interviewed him. He's an extremely nice guy.
No relation to Billy Bob Thornton.
No, but he has his origins on Broadway. He was what do you call it? The understudy for the Grinch on the Grinch's Broadway show.
Oh, no kidding.
Yes,
I did not know that.
Yeah, I mean, he's also a voice actor. This guy does an outstanding Mark Hamill Joker voice.
It's interesting because he doesn't talk at all in the Terrifier movies. And he must have done some mime work too, because I haven't seen anyone mime like this since Mr. Bean in the 90s.
Yeah, no, he's a total theater guy.
Right.
He went to college for theater, and he's very trained. And his miming in the Terrifier movies are just second to none. He's really, really, really good.
Right, because all I can think of is, other than him, it's like, okay, Mr. Bean, and then you really have to think there's not a lot of miming in movies these days. So it's like Mr. Bean was the last real prominent mime comedian, But this movie's far from being a comedy, even though there are some satire things that happen in all three of the movies. So you first discovered? Did you watch the All Hallows Eve thing first?
I watched Terrifier first.
Okay, and then I still haven't seen All Hallows Eve.
Yeah, I watched Terrifier first, and then went back to All Hallows Eve. And then, like I said, my first podcast kicked off, and then within a year, we were talking to David Howard Thornton on our show.
Nice,
and that's while he was in the middle of production for Terrifier 2.
Nice,
and obviously, there's the one very famous scene in Terrifier, the original, that we talked about, and he promised us that they would outdo it in Terrifier 2, and to a degree they did. And then I heard him in recent interviews saying that they outdid what they did in Terrifier 2 and Terrifier 3. Terrifier literally just came out a couple days ago. I haven't had a chance to see it yet.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking forward to it, but you got to see it.
Yeah. I mean, I just want to talk briefly because I first saw the first Terrifier movie because I saw this huge discussion online, and I'm part of a lot of film geek things all over social media, and I couldn't believe the momentum going for this movie Terrifier 2. I hadn't seen anything really like this in years.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very interesting how a movie, literally, Damian Leone used his own money. There was no studio involved, no major studio, I should say. There was some independent stuff going on, but there was no major studio at all for Terrifier 2, and the fact that it exploded the way it did was amazing. And we kind of seen it a little bit this year with Strange Darling, but that had a major studio with it.
Right.
Whereas Terrifier 2 did not.
Yeah, this was all self-funded by Damian.
Right.
Written, directed it, and he did all the makeup effects
himself. Yeah, he pretty much did everything with this movie.
Yeah, I mean, David Howard Thornton regularly does horror conventions as art, and Damian Leone shows up and makes him up for the conventions.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, so it's
how often does a director get involved?
I mean, so Damian Leone, his hands are all over every little aspect of Terrifier. That's why this third one, he even puts his name in the title now. Damian Leone's Terrifier 3.
Well, it's his.
Yeah.
It's his baby.
His, yeah.
So remember Terrifier 2? That was the thing. I love the first Terrifier. Probably not as much as you, but I still thought it was really cool. The sparse plot, and it felt like an 80s slasher film. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I love that. And Terrifier 2... I mean, it was good, but it was way too long. That was my biggest complaint, was everything was too long.
I think that was a lot of people's complaint about it.
Well, yeah. I mean, I understand you got to have gore for the diehard fans, but at the same time, it's like some of the gore was just okay, let's move on to the story here. And that's that's one thing I will agree with Damian Leone, is people dismiss Terrifier 2 and Terrifier 3 as having no plot. There is a plot there. You just have to sit through a bunch of, in my opinion, some cases, needless violence and gore just to get to the heart of the story. And there's a cool brother-sister story dynamic that I really liked in Terrifier 2, and which, you can make shocking kills quickly, as we've seen in many, many slasher films. You can make gore and slasher stuff very quickly and move on to the plot. Because, I know some people don't like to have a story bogged down by too much plot, and I agree. But the story between the brother and the sister, I thought, was really cool, and how it felt kind of like a personal kind of thing. And I wish, there wasn't so much too much gore, you know.
Right.
There, in my opinion, there is a thing is too much gore, and you know, I think you cut down some of that, you know, it would have helped a little bit, because there was a good story, I thought. What did you think of Terrifier 2?
No, I thought it had a very good story.
Yeah, the brother-sister dynamic, that, I mean, they had to work together, you know?
But, you know, I agree with you.
Because it's the family, the importance of family was,
yeah,
to me, was really...
Yeah. I got that, and I understood it, and it was a good story. But as far as the too much gore part of it, I agree with you. But I think with the reputation, I think what's happening with Damian Leone is that the first movie was so shocking, and we'll just put it, the girl who gets cut in half while she's, you know, spread eagle upside down, it's still talked about today.
Well, how can you forget it?
Yeah, and I think there is a subconscious in Damian Leone. He feels that he needs to up it and outdo it.
Yeah,
and I think that's where, you know, the too much gore is coming into play. I think he wants Art the Clown character to be, you know, you never know what he's going to do.
Right.
You never know what he's capable of, and he's trying to shock you with that.
Well, and what I liked most about the Terrifier, the first one, is that he's so mysterious. You don't know anything about him. I like that.
Yeah.
I don't like John Carpenter's mindset. I don't want to know about I don't want to know what goes inside Mike Myers' head. I don't want to know what goes inside Art the Clown's head. But it's like, okay, so Terrifier 2, you think there might be some supernatural devil hell related thing. Well, they take it to that level in the third one, and the thing is, I don't think, like in Terrifier 3, I think it's kind of underwhelming, that aspect of it, the reveal of the demonic, you know, connection to Art the Clown. See, remember, there's Victoria, Vicky in the second one. So he uses Vicky. Remember how he gets decapitated?
Yep.
You know, very memorably at the end of Terrifier 2.
Yeah.
So we find 5 years later, the story moves. It's also kind of jumpy in a way, and there are some things that you just have to go with it, because if you try to think too hard, it's like, why the hell did the movie start off with a little kid, a little girl, seeing her family get victimized? She thinks it's Santa Claus, but it's Art in a Santa Claus suit, and that has nothing to do with the story. I mean, if you're a fan of gory kills, then hey, you're in the right place. But they don't even focus so much on the gore; it's the anticipation of it all, which I like how he built that in the first few minutes of the movie, but it has nothing to do with the rest of the movie. So it's kind of just like, okay, I don't. Other than like just for people laughing at, you know, the way Art the Clown's in a Santa suit at the beginning, I can't see the point of it, because then it jumps, you know, 5 years prior when he's obviously been beheaded, and he, you know, his body somehow is in that insane asylum with Chris Jericho running it and being a security guy.
Yeah.
he gets a pretty cool kill scene. I won't reveal it since you haven't seen it yet, but you know, you see like Victoria being a vessel for Art the Clown, so he gets his head back. So it's like, okay, there's some demonic possession kind of thing going on, which they only pretty much focus on that in that scene and at the end, which is kind of like, oh, why can't, if this is supposed to be about Art the Clown, why are we supposed to care about the family dynamics of the so-called protagonist?
Right.
You know what I mean? It's just, it's kind of messy, the plot in this one, whereas Terrifier 2, clearly, you know, families stick together. You know, I thought that's the vibe I got from Terrifier 2, is a family that's kind of, well, their father died, they're kind of, doing their own thing. They're kind of not a unit, and Art the Clown kind of brings them together as a family. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Because the mom dies and everything like that. So, like, brother and sister really have to be together. That was the thing about Black Phone, which came out the same year, was the brother-sister dynamic. Although I think it was a better story in Black Phone. I did like how Leone had that family, the importance of family being the center of Terrifier 2, where this one, it's like you get more about Art the Clown, which is fine, but it was kind of a messy way it was presented in the movie.
Yeah.
So, 5 years prior, he's been decapitated, and they find the body of Art the Clown just sitting there with cobwebs and Vicky's decaying body in a bathtub. Mm-hmm. Obviously they're both demon possessed, so they're not dead.
Right. Yeah.
They're just laying dormant for whatever reason. Maybe they needed to be discovered. Again, it's not really presented clear why they're in this old dilapidated house just waiting there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I mean, it makes for cool kills, cool sets, and all that kind of stuff. They're woken from their slumber when two workers, they're about to demolish the building they're in. Okay? Mm-hmm. So that's why they're there. They're trying to clean up the mess. But of course, it's a set piece to kill the workers, venture off on another killing spree. At a bar, you get Clint Howard. Ron Howard's brother has a cameo in it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, there's Daniel Roebuck. Ever heard of that guy? He was in Nash Bridges. And
yep.
Well, he's a Santa Claus impersonator, okay? And Clint Howard's his buddy. They're just, you can tell like they're regulars at this bar. There's only like three of them, the bartender and those two guys. So in walks Art the Clown, and this is a good showcase for, Thornton to do some pretty cool mime scenes as Art. Art meets the Santa Claus impersonator, murders him and all their other patrons too. Again, there's only three of them in there. It is kind of a funny scene, even though it kind of goes on way too long. And Clint Howard's got to have more than like a 30-second cameo, but it is kind of cool to see Daniel Roebuck as a Santa Claus impersonator.
Right.
And it's an interesting way to kill someone. I don't know what you call it, but it's like a nitro freezing thing.
Yeah.
Like, Art comes up with this way to, like, he tests it on a rat, like freezes the rat and smushes the rat afterwards. So he's like freezing different parts of Daniel Roebuck's body and then smashing it. And
oh, that's fun.
well, it's a little too much. I mean, I could see it doing it a couple of times, but it goes kind of way too long.
Yeah, I get that, but like to me, again, I haven't seen it. But to me, I think that's what I love about Art the Clown as a character. Like you go back to the original movie, when he's torturing those girls and chasing them around, just finding creative ways to torture them and kill them. Like you can tell he's having a blast,
right? Until
like he gets bored, and then like he's disappointed that he had to shoot one of them. Just pull out a gun and boringly, and I loved how David Howard Thornton played it. Like he was upset that he had to use a gun.
Right.
So to hear this, it's like, all right, so this is just Art having a blast again.
Oh yeah. And again, there's the whole Sienna angle. Okay, so Sienna's been in an institution this whole time.
Yeah.
She's been away from her, what's left of her family, her brothers, and they don't really focus much on the brother this time around. He's off in college, and he's kind of. He keeps telling her to move on. She's kind of stuck. She sees visions of her dead friends.
Yeah.
And she goes back to live with her aunt and her uncle. Her aunt wants to help her, and her uncle's kind of like, well, what if she has an episode? And but her niece like idolizes her. She loves Sienna, and again, it was like, okay, so they're focusing on that part, or are they focusing on Art the Clown? So it gets kind of jumbled, the focus of the movie. When you focus on when the main point of view is supposed to be for more than one character, it's really difficult to juggle that unless you're a top-notch filmmaker. And I'm not taking anything away from Damian Leone, but sometimes when you focus on more than one character, it gets kind of messy. you know, and that's unfortunately what happens here. It's still not a bad movie.
Yeah.
But it's like, okay, are we focusing on Sienna and her niece and her trying to get back into life? Or are we focusing on Art the Clown and his supernatural stuff? Again, Art the Clown, if that's the focus, we'll focus on him 100%. You know, have the movie be from his point of view. That's my thinking. I don't know.
Right. I haven't seen it, so I can't really.
Yeah. I know. It's just like kind of to myself.
Yeah.
So Sienna decides to visit her brother at his university, where she meets his roommate and the roommate's girlfriend, who hosts a true crime podcast and is kind of obsessed. She's been kind of following both Jonathan and Sienna's case and wants them on as guests. And Jonathan's like, I don't know. You know, where Sienna's like, I don't think so. And she kind of has an episode and flips out when they meet. Now, Sienna confesses to Jonathan that she thinks Art is still alive. So she gets kind of vibes that he's around somewhere. She goes out shopping and she thinks she sees Art the Clown dressed as Santa Claus with a Santa Claus mask. So she's kind of, but she's seeing things. So she doesn't know if that's real, but she has like a gut instinct that he's out there still lurking somewhere. So she confesses to her brother that she thinks Art is alive, and they learn that demons can be reborn through a host. Like Vicky, we were just talking about, like, it literally shows Vicky, like, being a vessel for Art the Clown.
Yeah.
And there are angels opposite to those demons. She also tells Jonathan she plans to return to the Terrifier haunted attraction to retrieve her father's sword. Now, Art arrives at the university... and you'll love this. A shower scene. The Jonathan's roommate and his girlfriend are like getting it on in the shower. Okay. And then Art comes in in the Santa Claus outfit with a chainsaw, and literally it's like a 5-6 minute sequence of him just like demolishing their bodies with a chainsaw. Oh, I knew it. That's right up your alley.
Well, listen, I mean, you gotta.
Well, I know.
In a movie like this, you just gotta let the fun have fun with it. I mean, we're not swinging for Oscar nominations.
Well, no,
we're just having fun.
And you know how I feel about Oscars, Adam. So I think Oscars are irrelevant. I just let's get back to the story.
Yeah.
Because I want, is the main focus going to be Sienna and her niece, or is it going to be Art the Clown? It seems like it wants to be Art, but again, I just wish there was a more, one thought. That's what we're taught in radio, Adam. One thought per break.
Right.
And in a horror movie, you don't want to get too complicated. And I think, unfortunately, this tries to do too much. But... That's just my thought of it. But so Art has a fun time killing. Cole and Mia are their names. The roommate of Adam, Jonathan. So Adam, you don't have a roommate. So.
No.
So Sienna learns about the killings on the news because obviously people getting their body parts decapitated via chainsaw, that's going to make news.
Yeah.
Especially on a university.
Yeah, it's going to get some attention.
So at this point, her uncle leaves to collect Jonathan while Sienna falls asleep. She dreams about the angels crafting her angel warrior costume. Remember, she was dressed up as a...
Yep.
In the second one?
Yep.
So she wakes up to find Art and Victoria have invaded her home, and Art encaps and like literally it's hard to describe, but her aunt, he sticks one of these big tubes down her throat, and he puts rats down in there, and like he literally takes that tube and bashes it with a mallet, so it's like But before I get to that, she has a dream. There are dream sequences with her father, played by Jason Patrick.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and I'm like literally at the end, I didn't even recognize Jason Patric.
Yeah.
Obviously, the last decent movie, in my opinion, that I saw him was Narc. Did you ever watch that one?
No, I didn't see that.
With Ray Liotta. Oh, talk about an intense movie. I know you're not into crime dramas that much, but man, that was an intense movie. But it's like, wow, that was like 22 years ago. So obviously, with makeup and stuff like that, he'll look different. But I didn't even recognize him at all.
Oh, wow.
I didn't even realize that Jason Miller was his dad.
You didn't know that?
No. I read about it when we were doing The Lost Boys. I was like, oh my God, and he obviously he didn't want to like live off of his dad's name, so he took Jason Patric, but I didn't even think about it, and then interesting. But so I mean, he's only in it for like a few minutes, but it literally shows her dad was like drew that character, that big goddess type character that she would be for Halloween. Right. So it kind of connects that a little bit more.
Yep.
So it was that part was kind of interesting, but again, there's a lot of interesting ideas that are thrown around, but it all leads to that showdown, starting with her aunt being like getting that tube like impaled in her mouth. So as Sienna regains consciousness, she literally sees Greg's body pinned to the wall. Her Uncle Greg. I had an Uncle Greg too. But his body's pinned to the wall, and she's like tied up at this point. So she's like literally seeing all this stuff. Mm-hmm. So what happens is Vicky shows them Gabby's skinned head being consumed by rats, and then she kills Jess by hammering a tube down her throat, forcing the rats to scurry in with a blowtorch. I forgot about the blowtorch.
Right.
So Art suddenly enters with Gabby as hostage, and Victoria reveals to Sienna that the head is in fact her brother's.
Huh.
So she thinks, like, at first Vicky's like, this is your niece, kind of, but it's actually her brother. Because she it's like a skull, and she puts his broken glasses up near it, and I kind of figured it was her brother the whole time because they didn't really focus much on him in this movie. Yeah. I can understand that to a certain degree, I guess, but I mean they had such a dynamic in the second one. You'd think, okay, let's if they're going to make a third one, you know how I feel about sequels, but okay, but he was only in it for like maybe 10-15 minutes. Just okay, I remember him from the last movie.
Okay.
But it's like that was the central plot of the second movie, and it's kind of just
right.
Okay, let's focus on Sienna and her niece this time. So anyway, Vicky tries to possess Sienna, but she resists and manages to open a gift, and it's her sword.
Oh.
Apparently, her Gabby, her niece, had found the sword and wrapped it up as a gift, and obviously, Vicky gets stabbed with it. It's and then Sienna decapitates Vicky just like she did Art the Clown in the first one. Yeah, and it seems like all the power is kind of fleeing. You see her like body kind of melting. Yeah, and well, it's disintegrating. Then Art attacks Sienna with his chainsaw, but she gains the upper hand, kind of like a duel of like a sword fight, only he's got the chainsaw and they're clinging and the chainsaw's going nuts, but Art gets his chainsaw stuck in the table and he can't start it again. So obviously Sienna's getting the upper hand here. Mm-hmm. So she stabs him. He's kind of stuck against the wall, but as more and more of Vicky's body disintegrating, there's a hole that opens up in the floor, and it seems like a portal to hell. Mm-hmm. You've seen that many times in horror movies. There's a portal, right, breaks open, and Gabby's going to be falling in. So Sienna tries to rescue her, but at this point, her hands have been kind of like crushed by the mallet. Yeah, I don't know if Damian thought of this, but I was thinking of the original Django, where he literally, his hands, he can't do much with his hands. He had to like set up something to kind of, because he can't use his hands, and she can't either. She's trying to like, she grabs her sword, trying to have her niece hold on to it, but she has no strength. She can't do much with her hands.
Oh, wow.
Because, I mean, Art the Clown bashed him with a mallet.
Yeah.
So it's like she can't do anything. So obviously Gabby falls into the portal in the floor, and that closes, and then she turns around. Art the Clown is gone. Mm-hmm. And the interesting thing is at the end, it shows, like late night bus, and this woman is all by herself on the bus reading the Ninth Circle, which is, I guess, the first time Art the Clown appears.
Yeah. So
it's kind of like an homage to that. And then who walks in? Bus stop, Art the Clown. And that's how the movie ends, is him, like, you think he's like dying, but he opens up his eyes and honks the horn and kind of does his little twisted laugh, and that's, or not laugh, but it's smile. And that's how the movie ends.
So we got more Art the Clown. He's
already announced it. Damian Leone said they're working on a 4th Terrifier movie.
Good.
So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But I just, again, over 2-hour running time, it's kind of difficult when you have a sparse plot.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand there's a lot of people that love the gore. I don't mind the gore, but I like it to have kind of like drive the plot a little bit.
Right.
And when it's just, it was like we were talking about with, I think it was Transformers at one point, 1.5 hour long action sequence. Okay, when is this coming to an end?
Right.
That's the way I felt some of the gratuitous gore scenes of Terrifier. Now, I mean, I know that's part of the movie. You got to have a lot of blood and gore. That's what the movie's selling point is. It's so squeamish that people are going to leave the theater, vomit bags with Art the Clown on them that you can buy. It's a gimmick. But it's like, let's get back to the plot. It's kind of interesting. Leone does create some interesting plots. Mm-hmm. So let's get back to the plot, a little quicker. You can still have some cool kills, as we've seen with Halloween over the years.
Right.
Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street. They've all had some cool kills. Memorably, the TV stuck in the head in one of the Nightmare on Elm Street movies.
Yep.
You can still have cool kills and have some blood, but get back to the plot.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, Halloween, Hellraiser, they're all like 80, 90 minutes. Mm-hmm. That's all they need to be. They don't need to be over 2 hours. That's the major critique I have. It's just the gore is... It's kind of unsettling, but it's kind of cartoonish, I think.
Right.
I know some people would disagree with, those are realistic kills. I'm like, I've never seen anyone die, but I can imagine that blood doesn't spurt, artistically like that.
Again, I think that's just the charm of, all the way back to the first one. It's supposed to be cartoonish.
Well, yeah, but the first one was like 80-something minutes, though.
Right.
These movies... You can have cool kills, cool gore, and still have an interesting story. It doesn't need to be like the second one was almost 2.5 hours. This one was a little over 2 hours, so he did scale it back a little bit on the length. But it's like, if I don't have a problem with the length, if it's going to be doing something, But it's like, okay, let's get back, because finding out the connection to Satan with Art the Clown, or Sienna trying to get her mental faculties back, that was more interesting than some of these 8 or 9 minute kill sequences. Mm-hmm. That's just my opinion.
Right.
Again, I mean, if you love just watch nonstop gore without much of a story, well, you'll enjoy those sequences. But Leone did craft an interesting storyline here, and I want to get back to the story. Having some cool kills it's to be expected, but let's cut down on the runtime of the kills and get back to the story,
right?
Which is still interesting. You can we've seen it many, many times. These slasher movies can have cool kills, but also have a good story too.
Sure.
But
I
know you haven't seen it, but you saw Terrifier 2, and that was the biggest complaint I had.
Yeah, and I even thought Terrifier 2 was a little too long.
I mean, a 90-minute running time is fine.
Right.
I mean, especially with the story he had laid out, literally was a 90-minute story. Mm-hmm. But all of the gruesome kills that he, again, the gruesome kills didn't bother me. It was how long he stretched it out.
Right.
It's like, all right, let's get back to the...
But I think that's what he's... Again, I haven't talked to him particularly, but what, like talking to... Having the one conversation I had with David Howard Thornton, I think that's why he makes them so long is he wants the audience to be uncomfortable.
But he literally said in an interview, he kind of like was taken aback when people said there's no story or plot. He goes, I do have a story in here. Well, let it shine more.
I understand that, but what I'm saying is I think the reason why those kill scenes are so long is at some point there's going to be an awkwardness. Like all right, this is getting uncomfortable. Watching someone just hack and hack and hack and hack. And I think that he's trying to go for. He wants you to, all right, at first this was, art being playful and funny, and now it's just kind of getting deranged. Now it's kind of getting uncomfortable. Now it's, and I think that what he's trying, again, I haven't seen the third one, but I definitely got that vibe in the second one. The length of the kill scenes is, he was trying to keep that art charm from the first one that we all loved, but he was trying to make it just a little uncomfortable for you. Be like, okay, let's move on from he's still going. This is awkward. This is getting a little uncomfortable. And I think that's what he's trying to purvey.
I know what he's trying to purvey. I'm not saying I don't understand why he's doing it. I disagree with it. I think you can have a quick kill, make it bloody, make it gory as hell, and then you can move on to the story. You can mix it up a lot better.
Right.
And obviously are we focusing on Sienna and Art the Clown? That's one critique I have with the story is it's like, okay, are we supposed to focus on Art the Clown or are we supposed to focus on Sienna? I mean, you can have both. I mean, I think of the movie Heat that Michael Mann did because there's clearly two main characters. You have Al Pacino's character and Robert De Niro's character. Now, I'm not. That movie was way too long in itself as well. Michael Mann had some issues on ending the movie, and it was he made it too complicated. But you can have a 2-lead story arc and make it equally focused. I think he's getting better at that, but we'll have to see what he does with Terrifier 4. Is he going to focus more on Sienna? Is he going to focus more on Art the Clown? We'll have to wait and see. But it seems like they're like arch nemesis of each other.
Right.
Which makes for an interesting conflict too.
Yeah.
So,
Chris, I'm looking through the cast list here. Did you catch Tom Savini in this?
Yes, I was gonna mention it to you. He's only in it for like a couple seconds. He's being interviewed.
Yeah.
And I was like, as soon as I saw it, no one else. I was going to make a comment, but no one else in it was actually a halfway packed theater. But I was just like, oh my God, it's Tom Savini. So it's like having Tom Savini, Clint Howard, Daniel Roebuck, a bunch of and Jason Patrick, obviously, from Lost Boys and Narc, and you had enough to please the cult film base there too. So
absolutely.
No, I think Damian Leone is a very talented guy. I'm not
obviously, yeah.
I mean, if he could just balance out the gore with the story, I think, and he'll notice it's fine. Like we've seen what's happened with listening too much to the quote unquote online fans.
Right.
That's a problem, I think, because if you listen to just the online fan base, you kind of get away from like personal filmmaking.
Right. I mean,
but the thing is, we've seen it over and over again. More personal the film, the more the audiences are going to go for it.
Right. I mean, just to play devil's advocate, do you think he's listening to the online fan base, or we also got to remember he's a makeup artist too, or is he just trying to showcase his talents?
Well, he can show. I'm not saying he's not showcasing his talents. I'm just saying a lot. I'm not saying he's even like just following 100%. But a lot of these filmmakers in the Marvel movies are listening to the online fan base, and the movies are kind of forgettable, to say the least. So, I mean, if you listen to just the online fan base and you ignore the reason why you're making the movie to begin with, you know, obviously he's a great makeup artist. He's also trying to be a storyteller too. Mm-hmm. So if he can kind of balance the two, that's all I'm saying is a balance. It's okay to have gory kills. I'm not saying it's just, to me, too much gore, and the story kind of is just, there's a story in there somewhere. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I think that's the people who critique the movies to begin with. They're probably not going to watch this movie anyways. They're just gonna, there's no plot here. Well, there is, and it's an interesting one, but you got to sit through 8 or 9 minute like overindulge violent gore scenes. You know, again, you can have cool kills, cool gore that doesn't last 9 or 10 minutes. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's all I'm saying is a better balance. I know I would have enjoyed the movie more if it was a better balance.
Right.
That's all I'm saying. So
again, haven't seen it yet, so
I know. You got to get with the program.
Well, it's only been out 2 days, Chris.
I'm being sarcastic. Yeah. I'm just giving you a hard time because you throw wise remarks to me sometimes. So
right.
Just playful banter.
But listen, I think it's incredible that he's doing a fourth movie. It's incredible that we got a third movie, and the character, what he's done with the character Art the Clown is just incredible.
And can we say that this is the first real iconic, like
original character, in years?
Well, in this century, in this century, Art the Clown is the first original like slasher horror character that can be considered iconic, because 2008, it's like 2 decades here.
It started in 2008, and then Terrifier comes out in 2016.
And it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Well, I mean, look at Spirit Halloween this year. He is everywhere. He has his own animatronic. He's got merch everywhere, and it's really...
Well, they even play on that in the movie. In the third one, there's a guy literally dressed up in Art the Clown.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, wow. Can I get a picture with you guys?
Yeah. Yeah, he, David Howard Thornton just put a video out to promote the movie of him walking through a spirit and buying all of his merch. Nice. And he's as Art the Clown.
That's
it's
cool.
This, again, it's, I knew that, like, this thing turned big when our little community last Halloween had a triple bill at our rinky-dink drive-in, and it was Halloween, Terrifier 2, and Smile. It's like one of those don't fit, but there was Terrifier 2 just blowing up.
Well,
everywhere.
Halloween and Terrifier are actually a good double feature.
Yeah.
Smile is a little bit different. It's dealing more with trauma and not so, well, after the first watching those double billed, you may need some trauma afterwards.
Right.
No, I mean, I think all this audience is getting sick. Audience is walking out, because the times I've seen Terrifier in the theaters, no one's walked out. Right. I haven't heard of anyone really walking out. I think it's a cool gimmick. They've used it before. We were talking Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's a true story.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
Yeah, I mean, they've done it since the 30s.
Oh, yeah. They did that with, all the Universal monster movies.
Yeah, they'd have an ambulance sitting outside the theater.
For people fainting.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a cool gimmick, having the barf bags with Art the Clown.
Yeah.
I didn't purchase one of those. I'm not into those kind of things, but I mean, they have the limited edition soda and popcorn containers as well. I mean, it's huge, and I'm glad as I'm not a huge fan of sequels, I'm glad that an independent movie is just really shining and get, now it's a major studio, and hopefully it doesn't have too many conflicts with that, because we've seen like Carpenter.
Right.
Carpenter had a lot of problems with the studios. A lot.
Yeah.
But it's just cool that we actually, with all the bad movies, you and I complaining about movies of today, we actually have an iconic slasher movie character.
We got a good franchise, going, and I think as long as Damian Leone keeps full control of it,
right?
I don't think you have anything to worry about being compromised. I don't think. Because again, when Terrifier 2 was in production, all the major studios offered him, and he went GoFundMe.
Right.
He's like, no, I am not compromising my vision. I'm not compromising my story. I'm not to get a big payday from a big movie theater. So he went GoFundMe, and we saw what happened with Terrifier 2.
Right. And I know Pearl isn't as iconic or, as Art the Clown is. Obviously, you can't do as much with the costume, but you've got, like, we have to say that male and female movie slasher horror characters, we have two iconic ones. Maxine to a certain degree.
Right.
So it's really cool. We have the X franchise, and we have the Terrifier franchise. These are like two independent. Now, I know Ty West had a major studio backing him the whole time with all three of the movies, and he's got a fourth one coming out of the X franchise. So it's great. We got two great horror franchises in the 21st century that we can talk about.
Yeah.
Original ones.
Yeah.
They not off of Halloween, not off of Nightmare on Elm Street. Because we've seen how many reboots of Halloween, how many reboots of Nightmare on Elm Street. It's great to have like new, fresh franchises. So as much as I hate franchises and sequels, I am happy to support them. So what did you think of the Terrifier trilogy so far? Do you like them, hate them? Do you totally disagree? I know Adam's brother Aaron always likes to disagree with me on a lot of things, but it doesn't matter. It's part of the fun. If we all thought the same way, life would be boring. So let us know what you think about the Terrifier franchise. You can comment below, reach out to us through Facebook, Instagram, X, and let us know what you think about Terrifier and the whole franchise.
We'll see you next time on Scared for Reals.